Welcome to the news and why it matters. I am Sarah Gonzalez. We are so happy to be joined by special guest. He's back, the Daily Wire's own Josh Hammer.
Back and hopefully better than ever, Sarah.
Yeah, well, I mean,
I
was going to ask you to step it up a little bit. No, we're so happy you're here. Stu, what's the top story today?
I should say I promise to be not quite as good as before. That's my promise today.
I think that's the wrong way to do it.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see. We have 20 candidates who actually made the debates. They're split into two nights. The Democrats even screwed up that process, and we'll go over that.
Okay. And Pat Gray from Pat Gray Unleashed.
My Little Pony is making society a better place in which to live.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so I'm pretty excited about
I can't wait to hear about that.
Yeah.
All right, Josh.
AOC has a new video out. She's comparing the illegal alien detention camps at the border to World War II Nazi-era concentration camps. Not a good look. So we'll break that down. Yeah.
I don't know how you don't see the resemblance in that. So obviously, we've got a lot to get into. First, we want to thank our sponsor, Relief Factor. So Relief Factor has made it, you would say tolerable-ish to be around Glenn?
Tolerable-esque.
Tolerable-esque.
Yeah, it's in the realm of tolerable. He's actually up at the ranch this week, and so he is doing physical work, which I think is really amazing. He has minions that do most of the work for him, but occasionally he has to walk outside and yell at them or whatever he does. And just that is enough to cause Glenn lots of pain. And I know he used to do this all the time. He used to have real problems with it, and he's been taking Relief Factor, feeling a lot better, able to go out and scream at minions almost all day long. So.
I mean, and who doesn't want that? Mm-hmm. So if you are one of many who, you haven't been able to scream at your minions, you definitely want to try out Relief Factor. It's 100% drug-free, created by doctors. It's 4 key ingredients that fight the inflammation in your body, which, is usually, that's what's causing your pain. So oftentimes you don't need big pharma to solve your problem for you. 70% of the people who buy their 3-week Quick Start pack go on to keep ordering more. It's working for the majority of people. It can work for you if you're in pain. You can go to relieffactor.com, get that 3-week Quick Start pack for $19.95. The odds are in your favor, and if not, it's $19.95. I think that it's worth it to see if you can get out of pain. Relieffactor.com, or you can call 800-500-8384. All right, Stu, breaking down the 2020 Democratic debates.
Yeah, sometimes I get a little despondent about the, sort of the current state of the Republican Party. And then you look at the Democratic Party and you start feeling actually a little bit better. This is amazing. So last time, of course, you remember, they were famously hacked, and in that hacking process, we found out that there was a bunch of people in the DNC that were not so big fans of Bernie Sanders, maybe trying to tilt the scales a little bit towards Hillary. I can't imagine she would have lost anyway, but still, that was kind of one of the takeaways, especially for activists. They were pissed off about that. So this time, they wanted to make sure this is a completely free process. Like, our hands are off it, just absolutely random. You get 65,000 individual donors, you're in. You get 1% in the polls, you're in. We swear. So of course they made these standards so low that 20 people, the maximum they were going to allow, made it into the debates. They had to split it over 2 nights. Now, of course, you remember this from the Republican 2016 campaign, where they had sort of the big boy table, the adult table, and the kiddie table was kind of the setup of that, where you had people who were really competitive for the nomination, and then that secondary table of people who were there trying to get from the minor to the major leagues. Mm-hmm. Well, that look wasn't exactly great. Plus, you're kind of saying then you have to make a choice if you're the DNC. And once again, what they wanted to make sure everyone knew, this was completely random this time. So they decided to actually kind of randomly pull the candidates out of a hat, basically, and try to divide them over the 2 nights. Of course, that did not work out well because they were hoping to get a split of the major candidates. You get a few on one night, a few on the other. Didn't really happen. Here's your breakdown, and this is June 26th and 27th are the 2 debates. The first one is going to have Elizabeth Warren, who is the only candidate in the top 5 of polls that made this debate.
Wow.
So all the other 4 of the 5 went the other way. So you got Elizabeth Warren, Beto O'Rourke, Cory Booker, Julian Castro, Tulsi Gabbard, Jay Inslee, Amy Klobuchar, Bill de Blasio, John Delaney, and Tim Ryan. I know a lot of names that people are connecting deeply to in that field. It's not a good one. So that, It's an interesting kind of breakdown there. Are people going to bother watching that first one? Here's the second one. This is where all the big names come into play. You got Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders, of course, the top 2. Then Buttigieg and Kamala Harris. Then Gillibrand, Michael Bennet, Marianne Williamson, Eric Swalwell, Andrew Yang, and John Hickenlooper. Hell of a crew they've put together here. So this divide kind of brings up a lot of interesting situations because And, this matters, right? Like the news and why it matters. It matters because it matters who the opponent is. This race is going to be really important. And, who's going to win this race? This is like if your team is going to the Super Bowl, you're watching the other conference championship game. Like you want to know. So here's who does this actually help? I think it helps someone like Beto O'Rourke, who has floundered so far in the polls. He will not have to deal with sort of the circus of a Bernie Sanders versus Joe Biden matchup. He's only going to have Elizabeth Warren. So these sort of secondary people who've been bubbling up in that, let's say, 6th to 8th in the polls sort of range have a chance to actually make a name for themselves, where if they were below Biden and Sanders, it might not be the case. Amy Klobuchar, sort of same story, I think. She kind of sits there as someone who has a lot of potential. She's supposed to be a good debater. She has a prosecutor background, so we kind of think that she might do well here. She has a very good electoral history, probably the best out of any candidate in this field, as far as like how well she's performed in elections. So she'll have a chance to do something. And Cory Booker, I think it helps Cory Booker in a couple ways. The same way as Beto and Amy Klobuchar will, because she's kind of off that main stage. Secondarily, like Booker is particularly awful when he feels like he has to really go for it, And the fact, like, if he's trying to overwhelm and outshine Biden and Sanders fighting, I mean, there could easily be a Spartacus moment going on in that one. So I think that one's pretty rough. Who does it hurt? I think it hurts someone like Pete Buttigieg, who now. No, remember, America doesn't know who this guy is. You're listening to, you're watching the Blaze, you're going to the Daily Wire. People know who Buttigieg is, but America as a whole don't know. They don't know who this guy is. He's a complete unknown to them. I mean, a third of Democratic voters have never heard his name. That's where this guy is. So how is he going to shine through as the mayor of South Bend, Indiana, in this field? Kamala Harris, sort of the same thing. She's sort of you put her kind of in that top tier. She's certainly in the top 5 of polling. But now behind a Sanders fight with Biden, is she going to be able to kind of make a noise? She's again though another one that's supposed to be very good at debating from a prosecutor background. Gillibrand, who cannot get a break. I mean, look, I think she's terrible. But like this is there has been no bigger disaster in this Democratic campaign than Kirsten Gillibrand, who continually polls at 0% behind people like Andrew Yang and Marianne Williamson. It's incredible. She's just been a total disaster. The other one I would bring up here is Bill de Blasio, and I think this one is a little bit different in that de Blasio actually would benefit, I think, from being in the middle of the fight, being able to get in between and take on a Biden. Or a Sanders. I think like
you have commie on commie then.
Yeah,
if you got
commie on commie violence. Which happens a lot actually
which is good.
In history.
It's fun.
It is fun to watch. But he's a loudmouth. He's a New Yorker. He's the guy that wants to fight, and like he I think wants to shine. Maybe he'll be able to do that. But again, is he going to yell at Elizabeth Warren? Like it's a different look than being able to yell at Bernie Sanders or Joe Biden. And last, I think the Elizabeth Warren one is the most interesting part of this. I'd love to get your thoughts on whether this helps or hurts her, because you could say it helps. She doesn't have to fight with Biden. She doesn't have to Bernie. She's the only front runner here. She's kind of alone. However, she also, are people going to care about this first debate? I mean, it does feel like the kiddie table debate. Does she just look like the front runner of the kiddie table, which is a bad look for her as she's kind of coming on. She's been polling very strong lately. It kind of comes at the end. You look at this and you say, we really have no freaking idea how this is going to come out, other than the fact that likely Biden and Bernie will fight against each other, and there will be a mess. Most likely, there will be very little debating, a lot of little 5-minute speeches. It's not going. This is a terrible way of deciding a presidential nomination. And to the Democrats, I think credit. They made the standards much more difficult for the next set after this first couple of debates. So this field should get smaller relatively quickly.
It probably should help Elizabeth Warren, but she's so awful.
Yeah.
She's just so bad.
She's really bad.
As a campaigner, as a human being. I mean, I'm not her judge. I'm just saying she's going to burn in the fires of hell.
But you're not judging.
But I'm not judging.
Okay.
I don't want to judge. Don't mistake me there. But so I think she'll probably blow it. But, here she is with all the Lilliputians. She should dominate that debate. And I bet she doesn't.
Josh, what's your
bet
take?
she won't.
Yeah, I mean, Liz Warren is less likable than General Warts, honestly, for being honest here. She fancies herself this big populist figure. I read some article yesterday. She's got this big student debt loan forgiveness plan. I'm going to butcher the exact numbers, but it was roughly that 2/3 of the benefits of her plan go to the top 40% of the income bracket. So she's not exactly this kind of like hard-charging, like class warfare. She's a Boston elitist. She was a Harvard Law School professor. So I think she's also just a fraud, and I think that's kind of what you were getting at, Pat. I look at that field of candidates, and honestly, one of my first takeaways is, Sarah, I do this for a living. I forgot that Tim Ryan was like was even running for president. I mean, I remember when Tim Ryan challenged Nancy Pelosi for the speakership a few years ago. He's like this
that's right.
Allegedly moderate kind of Ohio Rust Belt kind of like forgotten Reagan Catholic Democrat, if you will. But I literally forgot he was running for president. So they've got narrowed this field down quickly. I think Warren will probably benefit from being like the only notable person that first day. I could see someone on that second day with all the heavy hitters, kind of like one of the lesser names, like actually like being able to like take a cheap shot, a jab here at Biden or Bernie. I could see someone like maybe Swalwell doing it. I'm not really sure what that looks like, but it's possible.
The other thing is, how pissed are we that Wayne Messam's not in the lineup?
I know.
On either night.
I know.
He's just not there.
Where's Ami Horowitz?
I know. I know. We were hoping to get a Horowitz in there. I wonder how many
Horowitz
donors
would've
he
been
got to. I never got that number. It's funny. Wayne Messam, he's the mayor of Miramar, Florida, and you might say that doesn't sound like a big presidential candidate. It's bigger than South Bend, Indiana. That is important to note. So somehow Pete is on the stage. I think it's racism by the Democrats. They don't want a black guy on stage.
Wow. I think you nailed it right there.
You just uncovered it. Before we get to My Little Pony, which I'm so excited about, let's take a quick break. We'll be back. I feel like it's not the My Little Pony that I grew up with.
Really?
Do you think that might be true?
No, this is...
All right, Pat, what do you have to tell us about My Little Pony? They are helping better the next generation?
Yes,
Okay.
They are teaching our children about lesbians, and I think that's uppermost in all of our minds, isn't it? I set my priority at, all right, kids, sit down, watch your cartoon, and learn about homosexuality, because that's where I want you to learn it. The writer of the episode The Last Crusade has put in Aunt Holiday and Auntie Loft, and they are apparently two characters who are with each other. They're lesbian ponies, and
do we know how it's portrayed in the show
they have not
clear they're
divulged
lesbian
that yet,
ponies?
but we're going to find out all of that this week as the week progresses.
Okay.
And there was a little debate about it on Twitter, like, oh, stop it, that's another right-wing conspiracy thing. So the writer cleared it up. He replied to these messages, they are lesbians.
Okay.
Oh, okay, well, thank you. Good, because
That's fascinating.
It is.
As a zoologist, Pat, are there lesbian ponies
no,
in
just
the real?
homosexuals.
Okay.
Just gay men or male.
Gay male ponies.
Gay male ponies.
But there are.
But there are no lesbian.
Now there are
ponies.
gay animals or ganimals.
Yes. There are ganimals.
Yeah.
Right. With
but
Ganimal Gaydar.
But are there lesbian animals?
No, there are not.
There aren't.
No.
Okay. Interesting.
Again, I say that as a zoologist.
As well.
So you can take that right to the zoo. Yeah, he says diversity and representation are important for kids for so many reasons, and it's my first priority on everything I work on. My first priority for my kids is please leave all sexuality out of cartoons.
Please.
Is that too much to ask? Have we ever seen an episode where the ponies are heterosexual? Are they having sex of any kind on My Little Pony? I don't think so. So why do we have to introduce lesbianism into a show that's not about sexuality? Just let them be kids. Can't you? Can't you just let them be kids? And then when it comes time to explain lesbians or heteros, I'll do that.
You for everyone, or just you for your kids?
I'm thinking about doing it for just about everybody.
Does everyone come
You
to
think
Pat's
of anybody better?
No, I don't think so. You'll nail it. It'll be an interesting journey.
I think I'll just take it over. I'll just be the birds and the bees czar. That's all.
We just recently saw this too with the cartoon Arthur. Arthur, I guess it was the teacher. The teacher had a gay wedding.
Oh, wow.
And so he walked down with his rat boyfriend, soon to be spouse,
Right.
and then married the rat. So.
Oh, right. Didn't they wink at the camera to tell you that was like, hey, guess this is what's happening. In case parents, you were wondering, yes, what you're seeing is happening.
Yeah.
Oh, wait,
and then Alabama got criticized, for not airing it.
That's
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
The public television network didn't air it in
I don't think
Alabama.
they aired the episode where Tom and Jerry hooked up either, which was that was. Oh, I mean, the fact that they went that
Raunchy
far, that
stuff, too.
explicit, I thought was
And
questionable.
Bert and Ernie
at
on
the time.
Sesame
Oh
Street.
yeah,
I
that.
think they boycotted that one. So.
But I mean, I do think it is an important clarification that you made, and that the Alabama Public Television Network made as well, that this isn't a homophobic stance. We're not
Not at
saying that
all.
we're homophobic against it. It's just that's
Inappropriate.
Inappropriate, and something to leave for families to have the conversation
Yes.
when they feel like it's the appropriate time.
Can you let our 4-year-old kids be 4-year-old kids?
Right.
That would be nice.
This is the problem, though, right? Because if you leave it to the parents, they get results they don't like. Parents might
True.
say that's not good, or maybe
That's
that's
right.
that's the same thing that's happened with the environment. I mean, that's to me like one of the worst ones you see, because it's so feel good. There's less controversy about it. I mean, God, how many freaking episodes of cartoons for little kids that you can see about recycling? It's like constant.
Oh, yeah.
And like we could go through the whole recycling thing. I did a whole episode on that at one point. But like the bottom line is like that's an easy one, right? Like you think of it as harmless, and a lot of times it is, but it's like. It's constant. They're constantly berating you with these left-wing opinions. And when it's all conspiracy theory of the right until you ask them. And they say, like, we got into this business to change the world. Of course it's about saving the environment.
Sesame
of course
Street is a good example of that. They have now admitted, oh yeah, we're left-wing. Sure, we've been preaching that stuff to your kids the whole time since 1970. And it seems to be they did say, Bert and Ernie, they are gay.
They did say that. And
Yeah,
I
they
mean,
did say that.
hasn't like J.K. Rowling said that Dumbledore was gay, if I'm not
Yes.
mistaken, right? It's kind of
Yes.
similar. I mean, here's how I see this. The traditional conservative concern is that the government is going to encroach on the nuclear family and the church and in your private space and try to reach your children. That is still absolutely a concern. But what I think we are increasingly seeing is that it's also private institutions that are also culturally hegemonic, is a term I would use in such a way. It's the media, it's the academy, it's Hollywood. They are all kind of banding together because the Fortune 500, the Ivory Tower, and the Professoriate in Hollywood are all kind of coming around to spew this same leftist agenda. Homosexuality is near the top of that agenda. And this is, as you said, Sarah, this is not about homophobia. This is about who is responsible for raising your children. And here the government is, in my mind, indistinguishable from what I just called these private culturally hegemonic actors, because they're pushing the same thing.
Yeah.
And like the Hollywood, they'll eventually admit it, right? Like it comes down at the end. Like, and you ask them about influence. Like one of the things they'll cite is the change in smoking, right? Like they stopped smoking in movies and stopped trying to make it cool. And when you ask about something like that, that's not controversial. They'll absolutely come out and admit, yes, this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to influence it. We don't want people to think this is cool. It's the same thing everywhere else, and they will admit it when you ask them and press them on it.
Yeah. Josh, AOC.
Yeah, wow. She does it again. She does it a lot, it seems, these days. So she's got a new video out, Sarah, where she is talking about how the illegal alien detention facilities at our border are equivalent to concentration camps in Nazi Germany. There's really no other way to take away what she said other than that.
And
Where to begin?
Yeah, let's go ahead and play that for the viewers before we get into the conversation.
The United States is running concentration camps on our southern border. And that is exactly what they are. They are concentration camps.
Oh, man.
And if that doesn't bother you,
Like,
I don't.
like,
We can
there it
have, okay, whatever. I want to talk to
whatever.
the people that are concerned enough with humanity to say that we should not, that never again means something. And that the fact that concentration camps are now an institutionalized practice in the home of the free is extraordinarily disturbing.
Yeah, so you know what? I generally try not to make it personal, but I'm going to make this personal, okay? Hi, I'm Jewish. I had a relative, Israel Spinrad, who passed away at the age of 96 2 months ago. He was sent with his entire family to Birkenau when he was a teenager. His siblings and his father were immediately murdered upon arriving there. He was separated from his mother. He got out of Birkenau, went to Italy, randomly found his mother by pure happenstance after the war, went to Israel, then eventually settled in Brooklyn, where he lived for decades. He was actually a religious, observant Jew his entire life. He just passed away 2 months ago. Nazi Germany was uniquely evil. It is the world's most brutally, systemically executed genocide against a minority citizen population, by the way. That is one thing that is incredibly different here. Let's hold aside for a second the fact that we're talking mass murder versus just detention to wait for your asylum hearing, okay? These Jews were citizens. They were Polish citizens, Hungarian citizens, German citizens, etc. So that is a huge distinction right off the bat.
They were living in their own country.
They were citizens,
in their own homes.
right in their own homes, okay? It is just beyond offensive. And like, I'm not trying to like play the victim here, but as a Jew who supports border security and supports, legal immigration, but not illegal immigration, these are not the same thing. And it is just ridiculous how those on the left repeatedly invoke Holocaust imagery to describe ICE, to describe CBP, and describe immigration enforcement. Cory Booker, just a few weeks ago, did the exact same thing. He was talking about how Hondurans and Salvadorans who are fleeing up to our border are equivalent to how infamously FDR turned around a ship of Jews fleeing the Holocaust. I think it was in Miami, Florida. It was in the port of Miami. He turned them around. And they all went back to their death. Okay. Asylum law under the United States is literally meant to protect exactly the kind of people that FDR turned around: religiously, ethnically persecuted minorities. Same thing with the Coptic Christians in Egypt who are being slaughtered by radical Islamics there. Same thing with the Yazidis in Iraq who were slaughtered by ISIS. That is who asylum law is meant to protect. It is not the same thing as people fleeing economic hardship, okay, which is what the overwhelming majority of this current legal immigration wave is. But for AOC to do this is just
despicable.
It's despicable. It's shameful. It's gross. I'm not trying to like get my blood pressure up, but it's just happening naturally. I mean, like, this is not okay. And like, it's just not okay to talk about contemporary public policy debates that have nothing to do with the bloodiest Holocaust and genocide ever with that. So
you have every right to be pissed. I'm pissed and I'm not Jewish. But how do you feel about rematriating the land?
That's what her shirt says?
We can't ignore the backward message.
Yeah.
Well, at least she used a good opportunity
Yeah,
that she was on her platform
she
to draw
did.
attention to that.
She did.
Very important.
Thank goodness, because how often have we talked about rematriating the land?
I know. I've seen the bumper sticker on your car.
It takes up the whole back window.
Yeah, the whole back window now.
The entirety of the back window.
Yeah, it's very, and you have it backwards just in case someone's looking at it in a mirror.
Exactly, which surprised me that she did the same thing.
Yeah.
Really cool.
I don't even know how to.
I do want to get into this a little bit more.
Rematriating the land?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I do
But
too.
also AOC's comments, and I have a couple additional questions for you, Josh. But I want to get to it in overtime because I want to make sure that we have enough time to do that. Let's take a quick break. We'll be back.
That's unbelievable.
Oh God.
who taught her how to talk also?
All right, before we go, want to remind everyone about the Mercury One Museum that is coming. What are the dates, Stu? It's the end of this month.
Yes, it's the end of this month till July 7th. It's here in the studios. It has a lot of really amazing stuff from history, from current stuff going on around the world right now as well. You can go get tickets at mercury1.org. I know Jeffy and I are doing a tour together in which we will discuss his heart attack, his surviving a tornado. We will throw things at him. There's a lot of great parts of that tour if you're interested in that. But Glenn has tours. David Barton has tours, I know. There's a lot of really cool stuff going on with it.
So make sure to go to mercury1.org. And overtime's coming up. We are not done with the conversation. So you want to make sure to go to BlazeTV to catch that. You also, at blazetv.com, you also get other awesome shows like Pack Ray Unleashed that you can also find at Blaze TV. So
6 to 8 Central, 7 to 9 mornings.
I've filled in for you. I don't know how you do it. It's so
hard.
early. It's so early. I'm just mad the rest of the day when I do it. We'll see you guys next.